Welcome to Into the Weeds with Weezer, a Little Bitches podcast. A podcast where we discuss all the songs off of a Weezer album, then guess each other's favorite and least favorite song off said album. This episode is about the album Pinkerton. It was released on September 24th, 1996. I'm reading this like I'm doing a public speech in elementary school.
I wonder if a kid ever did that, like presented about Pinkerton.
There's got to be someone who did that.
Did you do that, Sandy?
No, I was unaware of Pinkerton in elementary school.
It marked a darker turn. Oh, by the way, I totally stole this from Wikipedia. So, I mean, it put it in such good, like perfect words that I didn't need it to change it at all.
That's what I tried to tell my university professors.
It marked a darker turn for the band. It was produced by Weezer themselves. It produced the singles El Scorcho, The Good Life, and Pink Triangle. Initially, it had mixed critical reaction. Rolling Stone's readers declared Pinkerton the third worst album of 1996.
Unbelievable.
And then, just to give you an idea, I didn't know Pitchfork Media was around in '96, but apparently they were, and they gave it a 7.5. And then in 2010, they gave it a 10 out of 10. Rolling Stone gave it a 3 out of 5 in '96, and then they gave it a 5 out of 5 in 2004. So it was later considered much better than they thought.
I didn't know those reviewer facts. That's actually not that damning. Like, I think it's fair to go from being a 3 or a 7.5 on an album to a perfect score. So I think that shows that maybe critics didn't have as much of a problem with it as fans did. If the fans are readers who voted it the third worst album of all time. That's interesting.
That's true. It also sold really poorly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like so yeah, I think a lot of people I mean this is not a controversial take. This is I think established to have been what happened. A lot of people wanted the Blue Album too, right? Mm-hmm. And that's really not what they got. So I think it was a case of the public wanting something very specific from Weezer and them not giving it, and people being salty about that. And that's actually set up the blueprint for Weezer's entire career.
Not giving them what they want.
Yeah. No. But still making some absolutely brilliant albums while doing exactly what they want. Anyway, this is the final thing about the rankings though, is that since that it's Pitchfork has declared it one of the top albums of the 1990s. Guitar World declared it one of his top 100 guitar albums of all time. Rolling Stone declared it one of the greatest albums of the 90s. It was, I guess, originally seen as like a disappointment, and then became like this massive hit after time passed. Yeah. Slight sidebar, but same thing actually happened to the first Rolling Stone review of Nevermind by Nirvana.
Oh, how'd that go?
Was I think they gave it like a 3 on 5.
Oh, wow.
Right, and then the guy was sort of pretty brutal about it.
Yeah.
And
what is all this distorted guitar and jangly
and then
voices? I don't
know. Not long after, like it was not long. It was like maybe like 2 or 3 months or something like that. They like once it had taken off and they were like completely behind the zeitgeist and like absolutely did not call that one correctly. Yeah. They re-reviewed it and gave it like a perfect score.
Right. Yeah. Dude, I bet Rivers wanted that to happen. Like he had to wait like a decade or two.
Totally.
Kurt had to wait 2 months.
Yeah. and Kurt probably didn't give as half as much of a fuck. Although I think he cared more about reviews than he let on.
Yeah, I think so.
What I this was a final side note about Pinkerton, or you can keep adding side notes on, but another one is that I believe Rivers Cuomo said that he wanted Pinkerton to be like the in utero of Nevermind. Basically, like the idea is that Nevermind was like very glossy, and then In Utero was really dark. He wanted to be the Blue Album very glossy, and then Pinkerton be very dark.
Sure.
Kind of working on the same template.
It's obvious too when you listen to it. It has the In Utero drum sound.
Yeah.
It has the In Utero guitar tone. That's the first thing I thought of when I heard it the first time was like, oh, it's like exactly the same way that I thought that the Blue Album sounded like Happy Nirvana. When I heard I swear to God, the first time I heard Pinkerton, 2 seconds into Tired of Sex, I was like, oh, it's In Utero. I was like, okay, I get it. I had the vocabulary for that. I understood what he was doing right away. Rivers is a massive Nirvana fan. They are without a doubt, like he's spoken about this transparently in a number of interviews, that they're one of the most influential bands on the direction of Weezer.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess welcome back to the show. Wait, I already said that already. Welcome back to the show. Am I even hosting anything here?
Welcome back to Kevin's introduction. We're here again.
Yeah, I'm going to give the introduction. I guess we're going to remain nameless at what this is, and then maybe at the beginning I'll paste it in. But we're going to discuss the Pinkerton songs one at a time, and then we'll do we'll rank our favorite and least favorite, and we'll guess each other's. Anyway, you'll get the idea when you hear it.
You've already watched episode 1, so you know what it is.
You know the feel.
You know what we're doing.
So the first song off the album is "Tired of Sex." Very gritty. It's got that beautiful smashy ride, ting 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 ting, and then that synth and that bass together, and the drums. Any thoughts on the song? You guys want to talk about it?
You want to jump in?
A lot of thoughts. Oh my gosh. I don't remember when I heard this album. Specifically, it was like near the beginning of my Weezer listening, so just as a reminder, I got into Say It Ain't So, and then I would have just jumped around on YouTube. Like, I know that I listened to Perfect Situation, and I liked that, and Buddy Holly, and I would have found El Scorcho at some point. And eventually I was into them enough that I knew that Blue Album and Pinkerton were the two ones that everyone talked about. So I don't remember listening to them really at different times. I think I bought them both on CD in like 2012, and I would listen to them both. And Tired of Sex from the beginning, or from right away, has always been one of my favorites on the album. I think it is a perfect album opener. The same way My Name is Jonas is the perfect way to introduce the band to Weezer. I think this is the best way they could have reintroduced the band to Weezer in this new era, in this post-fame, post-rockstar, or I guess like during rockstar life. This starts one of my favorite types of albums, which is like the we've achieved success, now what do we do with it albums.
Yeah.
Like In Utero is one of those. Recovering the Satellites by Counting Crows, Verses by Pearl Jam. All those are some of my favorite albums, and they all have grittier sounds, and they're all a bit looser and abrasive, and I think this is that from the get-go, and I love it.
I agree. Tired of Sex is almost more raw than In Utero in some ways. The bass drum sound is it's like borderline distorted.
It is, yeah.
And it's so heavy. Rivers has some really, one of the things I love the most about Pinkerton is that he has some really unhinged screams in it, where he sounds like he's in so much pain.
Yeah, like literally, like he's yelping. It's not controlled.
Yeah,
at all.
exactly. Yeah, and I think one of my favorite things about Tired of Sex is actually the guitar solo. It's I think one of his best guitar solos. It's really technical. It's kind of like borderline shreddy. But also has that, it's kind of like In the Garage, has that sort of frantic, unhinged kind of quality to it as well, at the same time as being quite technical.
It's super hard to play.
It's really hard to play. And I always just play a cheater version of it. Like I have a version of that that's like, it's like 70% accurate, and I just don't do the really hard parts. And I also think that there's something about Tired of Sex that probably my favorite thing about it is that the last chorus where he's tonight I'm down on my knees, tonight I'm begging you please. That there's a really good harmony going on between, I believe it's Brian and him in that. Okay. Brian's underneath him and Rivers on top of it, and and the chord progression is so melodic, and it sounds so urgent and so desperate. And I think it's really interesting that in the first half of the song, he's talking about how tired he is of sex, and how he can't, he basically, has had enough. And then at the end, he's begging for something, and we know he can't be begging for sex because he just said he's tired of it. So I'm like, it sounds like an emotional plea to me, right? Like I'm begging for connection, and I'm tired.
Well, he says, so why can't I be making love come true?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
No, and I think that it's a really it sets the tone for Pinkerton perfectly.
Yeah.
Perfectly.
It's a pretty simple song, like
Totally.
Like especially chord wise and structure wise. Oh man, I should have prepared for this. I'm getting a little emotional here. No, it's okay. It is a really odd thing to say that you're tired of sex, but I guess it kind of comes through in the end. Is that the idea is that he's just tired of having meaningless sex. He starts listing off a bunch of girls' names.
Yeah, he does the Mambo number 5 technique. Rivers does that a lot, actually. There are multiple songs where he'll just list women's names.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, he does it in Smart Girls.
Yep.
From Hurley. There's I think there's a more recent song on one of the last few albums he does it too.
He just loves listing all the ladies he's been with.
Well, and he also has songs that are just about women too, right? Like Jamie, Suzanne.
Yeah.
There's a Blue Album sort of demo called Lisa that's really good.
Yeah.
Then there's Oh Lisa from the Green Album B-sides. He's got a lot of songs like that.
But he's like I've been with so many women that I can make their names rhyme with each other in a song.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's really neat about the song too is that it's like there's a quiet verse and a quiet chorus, and then it's like now we have our loud verse, and then kind of back to a quieter chorus, and then the final chorus is like the most loudest part. Is that like it's one of those songs that like the first few courses are very kind of quiet and building up. And then the final one is like, tonight I'm down on my knees. And the last chorus, he doesn't list any women's names, which is like he's given his full emotion there too. But
it's also the first time, because on the Blue Album there's some keyboards on the Blue Album, but they're more sort of like classic 60s sounds, like it's kind of like organs and stuff like that, right? Yeah. And this one has that really harsh, like buzzy, like cheap, like 70s kind of like late 70s, early 80s, like sort of power lead thing. And also deserves to be said that Tired of Sex was actually part of Songs from the Black Hole.
Oh, yeah.
Which was his like sci-fi kind of attempted space opera that is, in my opinion, a little overhyped in the fan base. Having heard kind of like the whole thing, I don't think it's as cool as people think it is.
Yeah, like the songs that were originally known about it were the best ones on
100%. But Tired of Sex was part of that.
Yeah.
And I always feel like that synthy lead thing is kind of like a nod to the sort of sci-fi kind of theme that song sort of originally sprang from.
Yeah, and they don't end up using the synth on this album as much as I would think from hearing it at the beginning.
Yeah,
but
true.
I actually think that's kind of perfect. You just put it right there at the beginning to establish that motif, and then you're into the album, and they can take you other places. And even this song takes you so many places. Like, I'm amazed, and I'll say it again and again as we find different characteristics. I'm amazed that people didn't like this when comparing it to Blue Album, because I actually don't think it's that different. It's like it is very different, but I don't understand how someone could like the stuff on the Blue Album and not find that stuff here and then just like it in a different way. Like this still. even though this is louder and recorded in a different way, like the tightness of the band is still there.
Totally.
The melodies are all still super catchy. The lyrics are as confessional as a lot of the songs on the first album.
Even more so, I'd say.
Yeah. And you've got the shredding that's on the first album. So I think this just takes what Blue Album does and, in my opinion, one-ups it.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer this to the Blue Album by, I wouldn't say a large margin because I think Blue Album is amazing, but my least favorite songs on this album I would still put up against a lot of the songs on the Blue Album.
Oh my God, you dropped the gauntlet there, man.
I found doing the rankings a lot harder for this one.
Yeah, okay.
And I also just on a bit of a note, sort of like on how similar it really is to the Blue Album in some ways. Like half the songs on Pinkerton were written while he was writing the Blue Album songs, right? Like Tired of Sex is from 1993. If I'm recalling correctly, I think that they were playing it live and on some of their like Blue Album tours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Get You as well was played on the Blue Album tour a few times. And the ones that you can tell the ones that he wrote later on because they're the ones that are far more complex musically, right? But a lot of it does have the exact same DNA as the Blue Album and was written during the same time. It's just produced and performed in a more rough and rowdy kind of way. Right?
Yeah. Let's go on to the next song.
Yeah, let's hit it.
With Get You, but yeah, as you were saying though, was that like the presentation of the song can kind of sort of like change a little bit. With Get You was like it's a super. I think it's presented a lot differently than the Blue Album. Where it sounds like there's a chainsaw going off at the very beginning of it, when it's just like I think like a few like layered distortion pedals on top of each other. It's like, and then the song kicks in. So any thoughts on the song "Get You"? Like I think it's using a lot of pedals, and it's definitely not nearly as clean and crisp as the Blue Album stuff sounds.
"Get You" has one of my. It's interesting because. Like this is like the Blue Album, right? Like there's nothing on, and I say even more. There's nothing on Pinkerton that's below like a 9.5, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so good, and there's so many amazing moments on it. And Get You has one of my favorite low key Pinkerton moments that I don't hear people or read people talking about a lot, which is there's a really interesting moment right before it goes into the solo. There's kind of like a little bit of a breakdown where it's like. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh yeah,
it's so gnarly and weird, and also the bridge I think is brilliant. The dun 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 dun. I can't be that. It's halting. It's really abrupt and it's really kind of awkward. And I think it really fits with what he's singing in that moment. Like I can't believe you know what you've done to me and all that stuff. I think Get You's like. Fucking killer song.
Just a small little point. The outro to that song is actually in 7/8. This is beginning to hurt.
Really? I never noticed that.
Yeah, it's when I was I got in this album when I was a drummer, and playing the end of that song is tough because you've got to skip a beat.
Yeah.
They do this weird thing. And that's my favorite moment of the song. That combined with Rivers, he's just like gutturally sort of like moaning. And I think that's the biggest difference that sticks out to me from this album to the Blue Album is Rivers' vocal performance. It's a lot less controlled, intentionally so, and it doesn't feel like. Whereas on the Blue Album, they probably took like the best vocal takes and had them all sounding exactly as needed to be. There's a few exceptions, like he does a really cool yelp before I think in the garage solo. But on this album, that stuff is all over, where he's just his voice is cracking and he's coming out of melodies by just like falling out of the note. And that stuff is all over Get You as well, and it's so great. And I like the swing of this one. Like it's it has this slow kind of beat, and it's just the two chords. Do 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 do. And I really like the lyrics as a sort of come down from Tired of Sex, where now he's taking a look at himself, and that bridge really emphasizes it. I can't believe what you've done to me. What I did to them, you've done to me.
Yeah.
So that, like, Tired of Sex and Get You, both lyrically right out of the gate, and that's like the first 5 minutes of the album, I'm immediately invested. I'm like, I need to hear what this guy's going to say in the rest of the album, because he's going through it right now.
What do you guys think about the lyrics? Sometimes I push too hard. Sometimes you fall and scrape your knee. Is this like metaphorically scraping your knee?
I've always thought so.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always thought that he's sort of calling himself like overbearing or overeager, or desperate, maybe even, and that he pushes people away and hurts people.
Was that what did you say, Reese? Oh, I don't know. I guess after listening to Tired of Sex, I guess when I was younger, I thought it was like, is he having sex and pushing too hard, and then the woman falls over or something? That was weird. Anyway, I guess it's not that.
You could. I think you could totally read it that way if you wanted to, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of like messy, kind of cringy, gross lyrics on Pinkerton, and it would totally fit, right? And he probably that's what he wants, right? That's what Rivers is trying to do.
Double entendre.
Yeah, that lyric has always sort of stuck out to me as one that, like, I've never really quite been able to rationalize. Like, I don't really think it's particularly cringy. I just don't understand the significance.
Yeah.
Like, I would, and I think he does in other songs, find a way to put a line in there that is a bit more evocative.
Sure, totally.
Whereas that one, I haven't really been able to figure out.
What about the word "get you" itself? What does that mean? Like get you?
Get you. That's what I've always thought.
Yeah.
And what does that? Does it mean just like I just want to get you for the purpose of getting you? Like what does that mean? Get you? Is there? I don't even know what that means.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I've just always read it as like he's looking at someone who he's not in a relationship with, who he has pushed away, and he's yearning to get that person back. You know.
Okay. I can see that totally.
Yeah.
I remember the guitar solo is actually really hard to hear until the very end when it gets really high.
Yeah.
It's like they may. No offense to the song, I'm just saying they may have wanted to turn back some of the distortion on it. It was like a little fuzzy.
It's a very saturated
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah, and that bass is just absolutely ringing out. You can hear the bass so well during that part. And I've been okay with it because there are other sections of on the album where you can really hear the guitar solos, whereas that one, I think the song primarily has like a bass groove to it right from the very beginning. So I like that you can hear the bass there. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into No Other One?
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Just in case anybody has anything else to say.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. So No Other One is actually, I used to say this was in 6/8 time, but I was corrected. It's actually in 3/4 time.
Yeah, it's 3/4.
Which is like a subtle difference, but.
Yeah. Because 6/8 is compound time.
Yeah.
So if something is in compound time, you're going to be dividing it into threes. Right?
Yeah.
3/4 is in simple time, right? So you can't. I mean, you can, but you aren't gonna. It's not divided into threes. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to It's so compound time is the other way you could say it is 6/8 is in triple time.
Yeah.
3/4 is in what would be called duple or time. So
it would be called duple.
tubes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I was going to call them both. I thought they were both called triple times, just in their own unique way. This one right here. I don't know if I should say. You guys want to say anything about it first? I didn't.
No, you should say something first, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what to even say about it. I mean, the first thing, my first reaction about this song is that I had trouble understanding some of the lyrics. I was like in high school, and there's a part that goes,
I thought he was saying all of the jocks she does scare me real good.
That would be a good lyric too.
Because
All right.
because at one point he says my girl don't see me when she's with my friends. So basically, I'm thinking that like they're in a relationship, but she ignores them when they're with other people, and she's sleeping with jocks. I'm like, that's what I thought the words were. But it's all of the drugs she does scare me really good.
Mm-hmm.
And like lyrically, my understanding is this is a song about like a very toxic relationship where basically the two people aren't good for each other, but like we're all we got and we don't want to be alone. And it's like he's making it sound like a positive almost, like
yeah, like they're being with each other not because they like the other person.
Yeah, exactly.
But because they are afraid to just be without anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and he's talking about the things that like maybe in another context would be cons, but he's trying to like bring them up as if they're positives, like the drugs that she does, they scare him, but he doesn't say they scare me really bad. They scare him real good. They like scare him into submission. She's got a tattoo and 2 pet snakes, so those are like, you know, things that could be off-putting. And then he says, you know, nobody knows her like I do. So he's saying that because he knows these things, she's the person he should be with.
Yeah, the idea is that familiarity means it's the assumption that if you're familiar with somebody that means you're meant to be with them, which is not. That's a very abusive, like a potentially abusive relationship you can be in. Is that like that just because you know them very well doesn't mean you should be with them.
Well, and he there's a lyric in it that I think really kind of speaks to this like sense of entrapment, right? Like it's like a romantic kind of like entrapment, which is I can't have any other one, though I would. Now I never could with one, right? So
right,
like,
yeah.
He's like, I would if I could, but I can't.
Yeah.
Like he literally feels like he's saying like, if I could be with somebody else, I would, but I can't.
I never noticed that before.
Yeah,
That's really
not anymore. You can't do it.
I'm trapped, right?
And
I would. No, I never could.
Yeah.
And even the first line, I'm such a sucker for like albums and songs that start with a line that make me want to listen to the rest of the song. They start with something that is just like a great thesis statement for a song. And this one has it. It's my girl's a liar, but I'll stand beside her.
Yeah.
And so I think that follows through in the rest of the song. It's sort of the inverse of No One Else on the last album. In that one, you know, he has bravado and he's the bad guy. He's the one keeping his partner around. And in this one, it's the woman that's the problem, but also he's the problem as well because he's allowing it to happen.
And it's pretty cool that the inverse you're pointing out. Those song titles are so similar to each other.
True.
I know. Yeah, I mix them up occasionally. Yeah.
It also has a cool, a pretty cool key change in the bridge. Only other thing to mention about that one. Yeah. And the way it kind of comes out of that and goes back into the chorus again is I've always been really, really, really fond of that. I think that No Other One is kind of like underrated.
Me too.
I think it's underrated.
As a kid, this was my favorite. Mm-hmm. I love the. Just the time signature that you pointed out is so cool right from the get-go because it's not 6/8, which they've done before. It kind of feels like it, but it has this different vibe to it. And the way that Pat is just slamming the cymbals, and he hits some toms too, which is unique. Mm-hmm. And then in the verses, I love that there's just like guitar noodling going on.
Especially in the second verse, where it's just the bass is I think the bass is left alone and the guitar kind of noodles. All of the jocks she does scare me real good. But yeah, that's a beautiful like. I listened to the song. There's a way you can listen to it where they remove the center channel, which is kind of sounds weird, but basically all you can hear is anything that's not in the center channel, and you can hear that guitar line very clearly, and you don't hear Rivers' voice at all, and it's like, it's a really beautiful like little like thing that you think you know all of it, but you actually realize there's doing some little different things going. Anyway, it's very nice. Oh. You want to go into Why Bother?
Yeah,
sure. Let's do it.
I think it's the shortest song on the album. It's probably one of their shorter songs in general for Weezer. I got the actual time here:
2 minutes and 8 seconds, and that sounds reasonable.
But they pack a lot into it.
Yeah, they totally do.
Brian Bell plays the solo on it. It's not a Rivers solo.
Right, yeah.
So it's got the lead guitar work has a very, very different feel from the rest of the album, and from any of the lead guitar work in Weezer up to that point.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, El Scorcho.
It is a Bell solo as well.
And I've learned how to play both of them, and they definitely feel a lot different than River solos. Yeah.
Yeah. This one, as I mentioned in episode 1, is is the song that kind of got me started as somebody who was interested in Weezer. Not enough to go out and buy an album. As I said, it was just like one good song on a mix of very good songs.
Yeah.
But this one was the one that made me go like, okay, like El Scorcho that I'd already heard didn't really grab me, but this one really grabbed me. And listening to it again, what actually jumped out at me the most, and it's always been something I love about the song, but what really grabbed me the first time that when I listened to it again for this talk, is the bass tone. And it does some really high stuff. Like it's in the verses, like there's actually some pretty high bass runs, like like he's going way up on the neck. And the bass has this really nice. It's a cleaner sound for Pinkerton, but it's just really, really, really cool. And I think
No, this, at the end of the solo, the bass does some really nice stuff as well with there.
Yeah.
It's like do 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 do. Anyway.
And I don't know why they didn't release this as a single, because it's so hooky and it's so like it's probably one of the more Blue Album-y songs on this whole thing.
I don't know if you're aware, but there are stickers out there. So when the album was first released, like on CD, they have that glossy,
like the cellophane or whatever.
Cellophane that we're looking for, and then they put a sticker on top of the cellophane, and it said featuring El Scorcho and Why Bother, which would make me think that they're considering it as a single.
Yeah.
And they never did in the end. I guess maybe it was the masturbation reference that stopped them from doing it. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
But very cool song, and I really like. The only other thing I'll say about it before I turn it over to you guys, I really like this one, is the outro, the way that it's like and like the chords it's you know what you guys know the part I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me, and it's like kind of jarring the first time you hear it rhythmically, but it really works, and it's really dynamic and dramatic. I just think it's really fucking cool.
It's similarly on the end of Tighter Sex had something kind of similar to that at its end as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Just the drums in general on this album are like...
It's a drum album. It's a Pat Wilson album for sure.
It is. Yeah. Like what I said earlier about how I think the biggest difference is Rivers' vocals, I would say right up there is Pat's drumming on this album. Feels so different. His drumming on the first album is great, but it's such a different style. I wouldn't hear that album and think that he's capable of doing what he does.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's able to do that, he's able to recognize the type of song they're playing and do the stuff he does in this. There are so many cool, not just fills, but little tiny wrinkles that he puts in to just lock in with the rest of the band. Like in the last chorus, it might be my favorite moment in the song. It's such a tiny thing. The last chorus, it's gonna kill when you desert me. Boom, boom, boom. Happened to me twice. And they only do it that one time. And I think it's just such a cool escalation.
When we recorded a cover of this, and our drummer Devin, he totally did that exact same thing. He remembered that part.
Yeah,
like it sticks out.
Yeah, amazing drumming, and I love how frantic it is. I love how frantic Rivers sounds in the song. He's got some great yelps in it, and I like the lyrics too. I think it'd be a good single as well, because it's just such a familiar sentiment. It's the opposite of No Other One. In No Other One, you're with someone and you're like, why would I bother being alone when I can be with someone? And in this one, he's like, I'm alone, why would I bother being with someone, because it's just going to end. So I think it's great.
Yeah, and I like, one of the things I always liked about it as well, was how specific it sounds, right? When he's like maybe you could break my heart next summer and like all this stuff, and like this happened to me twice before and like all this shit,
twice is a very specific number.
And I remember listening to it because I first heard this when I was like 14, and I, you know, I did not go on a single date in high school. That was not where I was at. But I
nor did I. It's okay,
Me either. That's why we're all Weezer.
That's why we're all Weezer. That's why we're now doing a Weezer podcast. Yeah, totally. But to me, even though I had never been in a relationship, I remember really specifically identifying with kind of like what I interpreted as his pain in this one. I remember it really striking me.
Yeah, okay. I guess I should say something more about it. I don't know. It's something that strikes me about the song too is in the chorus, the bass. There's a walking bass line, which I believe happens again in Pink Triangle. Which it's a beautiful walking bass line. I don't know who wrote it, but it's great. Yeah, I guess I guess I'm not sure what else I can say about the song. It's good.
It's great. Yeah.
I'm at a loss for words.
Good song, Rivers.
The next song is Across the Sea, which is like the end of the A side.
That's true. I love that you're bringing my attention to the A side, B side stuff. I never realized how well sequenced the songs are in that way. The albums.
I think I kind of learned about it from this. To like you got to pick like an ending song and you got to pick like a mid song. That's going to be like the climax of a side if you're going to make an LP out of it, which isn't. Well, actually, it's more relevant today than it was like 10 years ago. But anyway, so Across the Sea. Also, it actually has an intro that sounds like the beginning of an album a little bit, with the
piano and the flute,
and then the one strum guitar.
Yeah.
There's a lot of controversy about this song we can get into. I don't know how we want to start this conversation off. I mean, well, do I want to come to his defense? Maybe not.
I'll come to his defense.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. If you're gonna be okay, I'll be strong too. Then, all right. So he's saying that he could never touch her. Do you think it would be wrong? So he's well behaved. He's not advocating anything bad here. Maybe when he licks the envelope and starts smelling stuff, that'd be a little bit not inappropriate. But he's being honest, I guess. I don't know.
I've always I think that Across the Sea is one of the greatest things he's ever done.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge achievement musically. It's extremely complex. It's like extremely raw. The lyrics that you're referring to, right? They're creepy for sure, but he's in Pinkerton. He's sort of talked about this, right? Pinkerton is sort of as much as it is like a deeply personal album that he's making, it's also kind of a concept album, and he's sort of also playing a character a little bit on it, right? So a lot of the character kind of comes and goes throughout it. Like Butterfly is as much as it seems like a deeply personal song, is also about Madame Butterfly. It's about an opera. It's about, you know what I mean. So I don't know. I've never been truly bothered by like the creepy quote unquote lyrics in this.
No, neither have I. I would just like feel like I have to defend them or something.
Yeah. No. I mean, I understand why they. To me, it just seems like he's being really honest, and and there's this one like it's got I have a connection to this one, and every time I listen to it, it comes back, which is that at the time I was like most into Pinkerton, which was when I was like 17, right?
Yeah.
I was in like a long distance internet relationship, right? And so I can remember listening to this song, like the "Why Are You So Far Away," and like I need help, and you know what I mean, and all that stuff, and like I would give anything to be around you, and I fantasize all the time about you, and like all that stuff. Like I was like living that reality when I was 17, right? That's one of the first songs I can remember in my entire life where I was like, holy shit, this is like connecting with me, you know? And that part at the end of it where he's going up into the falsetto, words and dreams and a million, and Belle is beneath him in the still in quite a high part. It's like it's still in F sharps or G's, but that's, in my opinion, that's like almost the climax of Pinkerton, the album, period, right? I think it's really, really, really beautiful song, and I think that something can still be beautiful while being ugly at the same time. My Nirvana fandom will inform that as well too, right? Because I think Nirvana is a beautiful, beautiful band that's often also quite ugly, right? Yeah. And I think that those two things aren't mutually exclusive. You can be both at once, and I think Across the Sea is a really, 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 really good example of that.
Definitely. I totally agree. I think this song is an amazing piece of art in the way that, like, not only musically, and we can get into the amazing stuff it does musically, but lyrically, the stuff that jumps out to so many people. One, I think that if you just like want to look at it factually, because you have an issue with it, like, he's in his early 20s and he's writing about someone who's 18. So I don't think that
that doesn't seem that problematic.
That's much of a problem.
Yeah.
And that being said, he's not writing about actually being in a relationship with an 18-year-old, you know? Yeah. He's using that as a device, very literally as a device, because this begins with verbatim lines from this letter that was written from him, which is why he kind of starts the lyrics with broken English. And I think she actually has a co-write.
Oh, did she get a co-write in that
I think
song?
she gets a co-write, the same way someone gets a co-write in El Scorcho, because he took a couple lines from So I think it's really just a device for him to explore how he's been with a bunch of people that's been established. He's been with people close to him, and now he's sort of, you can look at it as he either found someone who he thinks is perfect, or he's just idealizing someone who he's never going to be able to touch, and that's why he's so into the idea of it, is because, kind of like in Why Bother, if they get into a relationship, it's going to end. With Across the Sea, he's yearning because he knows that he can't be in a relationship with this person. I could never touch you. That could mean I could never touch you because you're 18 and I'm in my early 20s, or I could never touch you because you're literally across the sea. Yeah. And so the whole thing is just him confronting how he is not satisfied with what's going on in his life. I don't think it's actually about this person as much as it seems to be.
It could be exactly that. Like, why would he be so desperate for somebody who's like across the world? Something's kind of going on in his life where like that would be his
Well, I don't know if you've heard him talk about like what was going on for him when he wrote this song. Yeah. Because this was not written, like some of the other songs on this album were written around the time of the Blue Album. Yeah. This was written while he was at Harvard. Okay. And he has described his like first sort of little stint at Harvard as like one of the most profoundly lonely, isolated periods of his entire life, right? He was like recovering from that knee surgery that he had to like lengthen his leg or whatever. Yeah. And so he was like completely hobbled for like a year, right? And like on painkillers and like, you know, just like living this anonymous life at Harvard. And I think I've always been struck by like that he seems to like, it's something about the way that he sings it. I don't have it really specifically. He seems really touched and moved that this person wants to know about him and wants to connect with him, right? You asked me about my favorite food and like you want to know about my birthday and like all these things I do. Like it's something about that really got him, you know.
Truth be told, I don't want to say anything. I'm not doing anything. I didn't do anything wrong or anything. But when I was like, I think 19 or 20, I was like playing in like an acoustic violin band, and somehow the Americans found out about us, and like I got like some fan mail from like 15-year-olds, and like, well, this is so weird, and like they're like putting all these hearts in them, like Jesus Christ. I'm like, man, when I was like 15, no girl would ever like do this to me. Anyway, so I can kind of relate in that way. But another good point that you brought up there was that this is what was the first song that may have been written while he was in Harvard.
I don't know about that. I don't know about the order, but I know that this is this is a Harvard song.
Yeah, so the verses on this song, the melody is like one of the least repetitive melodies that they've ever come out with, and it's still like it's a very functional melody. Does that make sense?
A good point, yeah,
like, and it's like you can't just be like like it's much more complicated than that. And like it's still, you remember it. The song is, to me it's gorgeous. The solo is like a mind. It sounds beautiful, but when you want to learn how to play it, it is a mindfuck of like modulation and like even timing. They're mostly 4 bars, and then 1 bar is 3, and then it goes into that
piano thing or whatever.
Yeah, and it says
like I shaved my head.
You see, Mom, I'm a good little boy, and it's like, oh Lord,
it gets really Freudian. It's like a psychologically quite a deep song.
But I don't say oh Lord and like I'm ashamed. I'm like, oh Lord, this is like somebody like really trying to analyze themselves, and like later on, Matt Sharp released his own solo album, and he said, what do you say, something like, "Mama, look at what a mess you made," which is very similar to what Rivers was saying in this right here. I thought Matt kind of sort of stole the feeling from him. It's like, oh, we can blame it on our moms. I can do it too. But still, great song, great backup vocals, a lot of variety on the drums. Like, there's some good drum moments in this song. I don't know.
What more can you say? It's incredible. I'll go to bat for Across the Sea any day.
Me too. Yeah, and I think just musically, every time you listen to it, you can pick up on something new that's happening. Like you could write an essay on every little aspect you just mentioned. Like you could write an essay on the backup vocals in this song, on the drums. There's so much going on, and it just creates. It takes something that could have been a simple feeling, and it explores like every possible nook and cranny of it. I think that's my favorite thing about Pinkerton, is that every song, it feels like they wrote the song, they wrote the main chords and stuff, and then they found a way to explore every possible thing you could do within that structure. Like there's just so much going on.
There's parts where there's like it happened with Tighter Sex as well, was the call and response. So I sit, and I like it. That's kind of a nice little like vocal kind of interplay. Mm-hmm. Maybe compared to the Sadie and So solo.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyone else anything else to say about it before I go on? Just because I know this is
This isn't. The only thing I'll say is that this is another one that's a little hard to sing, just because the melody is like that. Like it's all over the place, and it sort of whines, and it starts on a really weird note. It starts on a major 7. It's the opening chord is like a G major 7, and you got to sing the major 7, which is actually kind of high. It's like a F, sort of a higher F sharp.
It's a bitch. So so we're doing a cover of it, like we're working on it right now, and like Marie's is like, this is just too much.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a hard song to sing.
Yeah, when I did my cover of this album, it was this song, and this song vocally was the hardest to do, and another song coming up was the hardest guitar wise. But this song, the way the note it starts on, even you heard me on the radio. Yeah, that's weird. And then at the end of the bridge, he's like way up there. how I need a hand in mine.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, it's tough. And I love that when you hear these parts, he's not nailing every single one of them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's
going for it, but like you can tell like his voice is wavering. Sometimes he'll be like, you can tell he's just at the top of his range, and the notes like sound a bit like less controlled than they might have been on the last album, but it's like it sounds perfect to me.
Yeah,
it's the perfect character.
I didn't even notice that was out of tune, but I don't have a good ear for that.
Something else that's interesting just about all of Pinkerton is I've read that they recorded the vocals all of them live all at once.
Right.
So there wasn't like I do my lead vocal and then you overdub your harmony and then you overdub your harmony. It's like we're all standing around a bunch of microphones doing all of this live.
And right? I'll get to it later, but there's a song where I listen to only the backup vocals, and like one of the singers is off tune.
Oh,
and even for me, where I'm a terrible singer, so I usually don't recognize this stuff. I'm like, whoa. All right, anyway, do you want to go to The Good Life?
Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that dun,
pretty iconic.
It's great,
and like I love hearing it, and I hate playing it. It makes me uncomfortable. I'm like,
how come?
I gotta keep switching to that E.
Oh yeah.
And like I don't think I'm doing it fast enough. I'm happy to hear them do it. I'm just like I can't do it myself.
They don't. When they play it live now, they don't do the third verse. They just do. They play it one verse short.
Oh, okay, yeah, because they do two verses then a chorus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So which verse do they cut?
I think they cut the. I believe I'm not sure about this because it's been a while since I saw them play. It's been like 5 years since I saw them do it live, but I think they cut the "Screw This Crap, I've Had It" verse.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a great song, and like one thing that's really crazy, which I have not learned yet, is the bridge solo part.
Yeah.
Is like apparently just like modulating all over the place.
Dude, the chords underneath that are ridiculous. They don't make sense. It's like, you know what I mean? But they sound really good.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Like when I did the cover of this album, when I learned Across the Sea for the solo, I learned the rhythm parts, and I kind of like did the thing where I sang the solo over it. Yeah. And that was so difficult, all those chord changes and stuff, that when I got to The Good Life, I just learned the solo instead and just played that because the chords just like sounded so weird and I couldn't really figure out what was going on. Yeah. It's insane that they wrote those rhythm sections.
When I was listening to, because I haven't listened to Pinkerton. Blue Album and Pinkerton are albums that I don't listen to all that often anymore because they're like embedded in my brain.
The neural pathways.
If you want to listen to them, you can just
listen to them, right? So I haven't actually listened to Pinkerton in a few years. And one of the things that I it's not like I forgot about it, but I forgot how much I liked it, or I like it in a new way now, is when the Good Life slows down and gets really slow, and there's like a xylophone going or something like that, and like the slide guitar and stuff. I was like, holy fuck, this is so good.
And I think right after that, I didn't know what was going on at first, but I thought it was like Matt Sharp singing falsetto, and then Rivers came in, but Rivers goes falsetto and then goes into a normal voice.
Yeah.
It's time I got back.
He's really good at that.
Oh my God. And he just switches into it. Yeah.
Right.
He's
really beautiful.
He's really. It's also in Across the Sea in the first verse. He starts it off so softly.
Yeah.
You are.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
It's so soft. It's not quite falsetto. It's more of a mixed voice, right? You've got like your chest voice, you've got your head voice, but if you're a skilled singer, you can also do what's called a mixed voice, right?
Oh, okay.
Where you're pulling elements of your chest and your head, and you sort of blend them together, right?
Yeah.
That's something that at least Pinkerton era Rivers was very, very good at.
Oh, okay.
And you can hear all over the album in these sort of more quiet moments or these more tender moments where he's doing a really, really good, easy blend of like head and chest, and he's seemingly going just kind of without any kind of cracks or breaks between them. Yeah, for sure. You're 100% correct.
And this is a small thing I was going to say about this. I was thinking about the video. I don't know if you guys have seen the video.
Yeah,
before.
totally.
it kind of, I think it showed like a break in the attitude of the band members.
Totally.
Where Matt Sharp and Pat Wilson were just like dicking around the whole time.
Yeah.
And then like Rivers and Brian Bell were just like being very serious.
Very earnest and serious, yeah.
Totally. It was kind of like maybe like the writing was on the wall of like the tension between everybody maybe.
Yeah. And I've heard that the Pinkerton era was really tense for them because Rivers was kind of really pushing hard for like this Pinkerton concept, right? And was like, you know, basically had taken full control of the band at that point and was like, you know, really kind of like shut out Pat Wilson. Like there's no co-writing, like nothing like that. Like it's all Rivers, right?
Yeah.
And when it failed and when it wasn't successful, that there was like some resentment from the other guys towards him, right?
Yeah.
And I've heard that the Pinkerton tour was pretty tense because they were like, dude, like you know, we went along and like submitted to your will or whatever, and we're bombing out here. You know what I mean?
Wow. That's wild. And then, so what must it have been like when 10 years later Rivers plays the Uno reverse and he's like, I got him back.
Yeah. But then 10 years later, Rivers is like now like convinced that Pinkerton is like the most hideous album that's ever existed, right?
Yeah, that's true. Amazing character study you can do on those guys. I love The Good Life. I think the lyrics are really cool. I think it's a great side B start. You know, comparing it to something like Tired of Sex, it's sort of like the opposite. He's like, okay, well now I'm taking it too easy.
True. Yeah.
And there are just so many cool parts. I love at the end of the chorus when they're back to that G to E hook, dun, 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 and they kind of do it's mostly a Pat thing where
boom, 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 boom. It's so good. I knew exactly what you were talking about.
Okay, yeah.
It's so cool.
Isn't are those not triplets on top of a 4/4? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And the one criticism I have of this song is that the ad libs are a bit too much for me from Matt Sharp in particular.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it as you were describing the music video, where I was like, in this case, I kind of wish someone had got Matt Sharp to like tone it down, or whoever's decision it was. I think he's the one doing it, but maybe it wasn't his idea. But like, you know, the song starts with his check me out, and then screw this crap, I've had it, and then he does some like woos at the end of the song and stuff. And some of those just are grating on me a bit at this point in my life.
Yeah.
But in terms of the actual song and the performance and everything, I love this song.
There's a line in it too, was like, is it, I just want to admit I like sugar in my tea? Is that how it's phrased?
Don't want to admit that I like sugar in my tea.
I don't want to admit.
Yeah.
But the idea is that he actually wants it, though.
Because then he says, hear me, I want sugar in my tea.
Yeah, so, he doesn't want to admit, but okay. I mean, I guess it's like, I want to have fun. I don't want to be an adult, which might kind of be going back to the my name is Jonas thing that we were talking about too.
Sure. He's the maybe the one last thing that I'll chip in on this, and then I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. Is that I've read some interviews with him where he's like specifically referencing like walking around Harvard with a cane. And like a giant beard, and like quite feeling and looking like an old man, and wanting to sort of bust out of it. And I think what's kind of interesting is that like he went to Harvard because he found touring with Weezer so meaningless, right? I don't know if you've ever read anything that about that, but basically he was like, we spent like a year and a half playing the same 10 songs every single night, and you know, and at the same, and he had aspirations to be a really serious composer at the time, and he was listening to like Vivaldi and like, you know, all that stuff, and that he was basically like, you know, being a rock star isn't everything that I thought it was going to be, and I don't like this actually very much, so he's going into like these serious intellectual pursuits at Harvard. But then once he's there, he's fucking totally miserable as well, and just wants to go back to like being a rock star again, right?
Yes. Yeah. The line, now that I've thought it over in my head, it's actually just need to admit that I want sugar in my tea. Yeah. So same sort of thing. He's tried to resign himself to a life of, no sugar, taking it easy, going to school, and now pretty quickly he's like, this isn't for me.
And also the just final thing I'll say about it. He says shaken booty.
Yeah.
Which will come up later on in their discography.
Does it? Okay, I'm interested.
Well, I say okay. Crab at the booty.
Oh yeah, Taint gonna do that.
I can't wait for our crab discussion. I'm stoked.
All right, so okay. All right, so the next song is El Scorcho. For me, I'm gonna say this is a great song. I enjoy it. I always found the drum intro was like a sarcastic version of the Sweater song.
Yes.
Going boom.
Just
boom.
way more simple. Yeah.
And like there's no bass in the verse, and then like the melody for the verses they're pretty complicated.
Really complex. Yeah.
It's almost like rappy, but like with many notes in it. I mean, this song is great to me. And I also want to point out that I heard it without Rivers' voice, and Matt Sharp goes out of tune in that chorus. Just to say that, I'm like, why? Like, they totally could have fixed it somewhere. Like, they could have fixed it in post, but I guess they let it slide. It was more natural.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think they wanted Pinkerton to sound pretty live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wanted.
It's the appeal to it.
Yeah, this song to me, I said "Tired of Sex" was my favorite as a kid, but now that I'm thinking about it, El Scorcho I think was the one I listened to most. This was the one that 17 me, like your Why Bother, really related to, with that chorus of "I'm a lot like you, so please, I'm here, I'm waiting." And again, I wasn't in a relationship in high school, so it's that idea of, I also had the why bother sort of thing. I wasn't putting myself out there, but I wanted to. And so El Scorcho, I think, is a perfect examination of that. It's a universal feeling.
Just to interrupt you really quickly. The high school thing, I think this is like the most like I don't have a girlfriend kind of vibe, is that I don't have a girlfriend, so like I'm a lot like you. I'm here, so I'm waiting for you to make a move.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna make the move. You're gonna make the move with me. And
totally.
It's like that's probably one of the reasons we didn't have girls.
So true. Yeah, it's so true. And I think that's why I related to it so much.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such a good album. And I think this is really a perfect encapsulation of what is on this album. I think it is a perfect single. I think it's like the perfect follow-up to Blue, because I think it's fun, but also has weirdness, but it has an anthemic chorus. Like, if Sweater Song was able to be big on the radio with that weirdness, I don't understand how this wasn't able to do the same thing. I think this is a better song.
Yeah, I agree.
And in this case, I love every ad-lib in this one. I think the riff is so cool, and the riff almost feels sarcastic too, just like plucking out those notes from the chord, just arpeggiating them. And the breakdown blew my mind. You know what? Now that I say that, I think El Scorcho was the song that made me go, okay, I need to listen to these albums. I think I was, clicking around to Say It Ain't So, Perfect Situation, and I was really familiar with them. And eventually, after listening to enough of those types of songs, YouTube recommended me El Scorcho. And so I clicked on it. I was like, oh, they look kind of different in this video. And I was grooving along to the song. I thought it was similar enough to the stuff I had heard. And then that breakdown hit where it goes like double time, or I don't know, triple time. It feels so fast. Like it might be the fastest they've ever gone.
Yeah.
And that was such a moment for me, and I heard that, and I was like, okay, I need to listen to everything these guys have ever done. I think this is a perfect song.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree with everything you said. I'm not going to repeat I'm not going to bother, because you said it already very, very well. But it's, the other notable thing about it to me is that it has what I think just off a sort of quick scan of my memory of Weezer's discography, might be Rivers' like highest full voice note in it.
Yes, and that's what I was thinking of when I said that he's pushing his range on this album.
What was the range on that one?
That's just a stupid dream that I won't realize.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
He's
not pulling. He's not doing a blended voice. He's not doing mix. He's not doing head. He's like pulling chest voice all the way up there. And I think it's like a B or a C above middle C, which is a high note. And you can tell, like you can hear that it's a strain for him to get there with his full voice.
There's also that part where he says, "I wish I could get my hand." Excuse me. I wish I could get my head out of the sand because I think we make a great team. And it's like, again, it's just the passivity of like I can't even look in your eyes. Like it's like basically like he's like helpless and like I want you to approach me and it's like it's never gonna happen. But as like a young person, you're like, yeah, why isn't this woman talking to me? Anyway,
and the other thing that you referred to before that's kind of notable about this is that he took some of it from a person's writing, from like so like the stuff about like I think it's like watching grunge leg drop
watching
the press table. That's something that he like read in somebody's paper or like in a journal or something like that, right? Yeah,
and I love that. Like for the longest time, all these words are being said. I'm like, what the hell are they saying? Watching grunge leg
drop New Jack.
Yeah, and I'm like,
press table.
Are these words like what? I don't understand this. This is a functional sentence or like and then my heart stopped listening to Cho-Cho Stan.
Cho-Cho San.
San, sorry, but I'm like, I still don't even know what the words are exactly. But I'm like, what is happening here? What are these? Just breaking into gibberish at the end of this fucking thing? But yeah, I love like these kind of like weird references that I don't understand.
But Cho-Cho San is a character in Madame Butterfly, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So it's the first of like several references to Madame Butterfly that's going to happen from now between this and the end of the album.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with those references, like I'm a wrestling fan, so when I first heard it, like I know what a leg drop is. I know that people go through tables.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew it too.
I know who New Jack is, but I still don't understand exactly like its relation. And even when I understand that he like took it from someone else's writing, I don't understand why. That being said, those little personal details just make, as long as he's saying them with such conviction, that I don't care that I don't know exactly why he's saying it, because then the way he's saying it and then everything else around it, like he says that and then it goes into the chorus. And I'm like, I just think as long as he knows why he's saying it, I feel it regardless. And when he says Cho-Cho San and you do the drum break, listen into Cho-Cho San, falling in love. It's incredible songwriting.
Yeah. Also, it was I like the reference to I asked you to go to the Green Day concert because like I knew Green Day. I'm like, whoa, Weezer knows Green Day too. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, in like 1996 too. That's a cool pull.
Yeah,
it's true.
He had his finger on the pulse.
Totally. And I get the impression that he actually did, because I think, as far as I know, El Scorcho is written about somebody specific in one of his Harvard English classes.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, that my brain is telling me that that's accurate. So I get I've always had the impression listening to that song that he actually did ask someone to go to a Green Day concert, and they were like, "Who?" You know what I mean? Like that seems like a very true, honest kind of thing to me. It's so specific, right?
Yeah, I guess in like 96 they could have been around. He's in Harvard, that's in Boston. They would have been touring in the United States.
Well, Green Day was pretty big by 96, but it's not. It's because they had like Basket Case and When It Came Around and all that stuff was out in 94 and 95. So they were already pretty big by 96.
Yeah.
But it's not. But I think that's why he thinks it's so cool that she doesn't know who they are.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that turn. That's so cool that like he is so fascinated with her and so critical of himself that he thinks Green Day is cool. She doesn't know who they are, so that makes her even cooler than him, as opposed to the opposite. Maybe the dude in No One Else would have been like, you don't know who Green Day is? Like, you're a loser. I'll show you who Green Day is. Whereas this is the opposite.
I totally interpreted it differently. I thought I asked you to go to the Green Day concert. You said you never heard of them, and he says, "How cool is that?" Like he's confused, like. Who the fuck is this woman? She doesn't know anything. Like she's not even aware of music. Like how cool. So I went to her room, and like he was like, "Who is this woman exactly?" And was like trying to figure out, is she really with it? I don't know.
Yeah,
that was kind of my vibe.
It could be either. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was praising her for being cool.
I think that's what I've always read it that way. That like he thinks it's really interesting and cool that she doesn't know who Green Day is.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So then he
Alright.
wants to know more about her, and then
Oh.
he looks into her diary, and I guess maybe watching Grunge Leg Drop New Jack is like in her diary. She doesn't like Green Day, and she's just a big
Yeah.
wrestling fan.
And then
That part totally makes sense to me.
well,
yeah.
and then you know the last bit of it, and then my heart stops, right? Because he's
Yeah.
reading. She's not saying in the diary. Then my heart stops listening to Cho. He's saying it's the narrator saying. The narrator's heart stops when he sees that she's listening to Cho Cho San, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always how I've interpreted
That's
that. He's
really cool.
That he's the first hint of how cool she is that she has no idea who Green Day is, and then he starts going through her diary and just keeps finding out like she just keeps getting cooler and cooler and cooler, right? But then you're right back to the chorus where he's basically saying like, even though he thinks he's like the coolest girl who's ever lived, he still can't go over and introduce himself, right? He can't do it, and he probably can't do it even more because of how cool she is now. Right?
Yes.
All right, so we'll go on to
Can you tell we identify with?
All right, so we're gonna ride on to Pink Triangle.
Yeah, let's do
it. This song right here. Oh man, something you may not know about this song is that it has a technique that I like to use myself. Is that like you cut off the last bar of your verse to start the chorus. I mean, I don't know if I guess you learned all the songs. I mean, I don't know if you realize that.
Yeah. No, you'll have to tell me like how he does it.
It's just basically like, let's say you have like 4 chords in a verse. So the second last chord of the verse ends the verse, and the chorus starts on the first chord that was going to end the verse.
Right.
That makes any sense.
Right.
Anyway, he does it in the song. And I believe the verses end in G. Oh man.
Yeah.
And then the final verse doesn't end in G, and the chorus starts on G.
Yeah.
Which is a weird technique, but like it all sounds natural. But when I listen to it, I'm like, there's something kind of weird. Like something gets kind of cut off, but I don't know what it is. Anyway, it's maybe this is what his Harvard days of like playing with music and
well, he eventually graduated with an English degree from Harvard, but he started in a music degree.
Yeah.
Right. So my understanding of the composition of Pinkerton is that he was sort of employing and exploring some of the stuff that he was learning, studying like classical music at Harvard, right?
Yeah, so it's very possible it's like I mean, with all the modulation and like the Across the Sea and Good Life, like bridge solos, that
Totally.
this was like another thing he was doing.
Yeah, well, so there's I won't maybe talk, I won't divert too long here, but like we tend to say, when we say classical music, we tend to make it like it's like an umbrella term that basically means anything super old that's played by an orchestra.
Yeah, totally.
But there's a lot of like classical music refers to a specific era, right? There's like you know, Baroque, classical, romantic, and as we get closer and closer to the present, right? So like classical music is like music that's very symmetrical and very neat and very like everything has its proper place and it's all arranged perfectly, and like there's lots of call and answer and all that kind of stuff. Mozart is like your kind of prototypical classical composer, right?
Yeah.
Sort of coming in at the end of the 18th century there, and then it shifts over the course of the 19th century. It starts kind of with Beethoven, and then by the time you're kind of in the late 19th century, you're full on into what's called the Romantic period, right?
Yeah.
And the Romantic period, at least in music, was kind of a reaction against classical music, and it doesn't like order, and it doesn't like things to be symmetrical, and it doesn't like things to be neat and tidy.
It was like the punk rock of the year.
yeah, and in fact, it's what romantic music is trying to do is take you on a journey further and further and further and further and further away from where you started, right?
Yeah.
Whereas classical music is very, very interested in like a very neat structure that's very, as I said, symmetrical and kind of just balanced and perfect and beautiful, right? Romantic music is a lot more about emotional expression and a lot more about using music to take you far, far, far away from where you started.
Yeah.
And then find some way to bring you back, or maybe not, right? And Pinkerton is like the Harvard stuff that he was writing there, like kind of like in the last half of the album, is like romantic music. It's like it's like rock music combined with like mid to late 19th century romantic music, 100%.
Yeah, like you can definitely see as the album goes on, it kind of is getting more sophisticated.
Totally.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm just going to say one thing.
Go ahead, yeah.
That Pink Triangle has one of the most classical moments on the entire, or not really classical, but because I'm saying it's romantic, but one of the most sort of orchestral moments on the whole album is that guitar solo, right? Where they're trading voices and they're like duetting and they're kind of harmonizing, right? It's very, very, very composed, right?
Yeah,
for sure.
I had never thought of thinking of that solo as like classical, and now that you mention it, that's such a good point. Like, it really feels like that could be like two halves of a string section that do this dueling thing.
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way because there's so much fuzz and distortion, and it's just so rocky. But it is such a big change from the rest of the album. And they go to like a bit of a different feel there. And I know that the songs appear on the album in the order they were written.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that by the time we get to track 8, Pink Triangle, and then especially Falling for You, we get such different flavors and chords and stuff.
Again, looking on message boards, someone or some people had said that this song is bad because the narrator feels entitled to a woman, and I was like, that's not what he was saying. He was saying that I wish she wasn't a lesbian because I wanted to be with her, but somehow it got into like an entitlement thing, which I want to push back on. That he's not saying how dare this woman be a lesbian. He's saying, damn, I wish she wasn't a lesbian, which I think is like a different. There's a difference. And I'm gonna get a lot of hate mail for this, so I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I don't know that I've and you know, what do I know? But I've never read it as like entitled either. I've read it as like you say, like kind of just going like, silly me.
I have a desire, but it can't be fulfilled, and I'm upset about it. Not like I'm gonna make her love me. It wasn't like, anyway.
Yeah, I think Sandy, at the beginning, you said that this is like an ugly album or ugly lyrics, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's like offensive. And I feel that way with this song too. Like I think he could have been expressing a different sentiment here, which would be a problem, which is like he could be, if he had said something along the lines of like, if only she would go on a date with me, she would like make an exception or something, which isn't what he's saying. Throughout the whole song, he's understanding that there's no way this can work. She is who she is. You can't change sexual orientation. And the one time that he does allude to it, I think is tongue-in-cheek, and it's still just in his own head, where he says, everyone's a little queer. Why can't she be a little straight?
Yeah.
And I think it's also telling that he doesn't say, why can't you be a little straight? Like, it's not him talking directly to her and saying to her, why can't you just be this way? He's saying, why can't she be a little straight? As in, this is just like a ridiculous hypothetical that he knows is ridiculous, but he's just turning it over in his head. And I think it's a really cool thing to write a song about. Again, it's very specific, sort of along the lines of Across the Sea or Say It Ain't So, where he's writing a song about a very particular thing, Pink Triangle, on her sleeve, Thought I Had Found the One. And so I think it's a really endearing song lyrically that I do think is ugly and something that most people wouldn't write a song about, but I don't think it's not malicious, and I think it's actually pretty respectful, even though it's not necessarily nice. You know?
Do you know what what Pink Triangle is? I mean,
I know.
Okay, maybe you can get a better explanation, because I mean I know, but I don't.
My understanding,
yeah,
and I could be wrong about this, but my understanding is that a pink triangle was like a patch or something that you would wear to identify yourself as like queer in like Nazi Germany.
Yeah, okay, that's exactly what my understanding was.
Right.
Okay.
And this song is the reason I know about that.
But I wonder if it's been used as like a sign of pride, like pink triangle on her sleeve, meaning that like she was literally wearing a pink triangle because like she's like, I'm gay and I'm not going to be murdered by the Nazis anymore, kind of thing. I don't know if was it a metaphorical pink triangle on her sleeve, or was it actually a literal pink triangle on her sleeve?
That's a super good question, and it's not clear in the song at all.
Yeah,
I think he leaves that open to.
Or is it on her sleeve? Like I wore my heart on my sleeve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. I guess we don't know.
The other. There's a couple of interesting lines on this as well. He's got a really good melody part where he's singing an F sharp note in an A minor chord, which would make it like, what's that, like an A minor flat 7 or something like that. It's on the when is it long enough, right?
Yeah.
It really bites in the chord, right? He also has a nice little run in this one where he's like, knew the day would surely come.
I could never figure that out when I was playing.
Totally, yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And I've always wondered if he's making a reference to smoking joints or like performing oral sex. Like,
what line?
Might have smoked a few in my time, but never thought it was a crime.
No, oh my god, I never thought of it as
you can totally take it either way.
That's true. I never thought of that.
Yeah. How did you take it?
I just thought of it as smoking weed, especially coming kind of quickly off The Good Life, you know, where he's talking about mellowing out and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, but I never really quite connected with that lyric. Like that makes me like it a bit more if I think about it like that, to be honest, because then that ties into the everyone's a little queer.
Totally.
thing.
No, I've always read those two lines as like bouncing off each other or reflecting each other. And there's actually Rivers was also experimenting with drag around this time in his life as well.
Was he really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
When he was at Harvard.
Like this, like personally, or was like he doing it for photo
Personally,
shoots?
yeah, like personally.
What?
And,
Okay, I had no idea.
No, there's a number in there. You can get a thing called the Pinkerton Diaries, and I think there's a few of these photos in the.
I saw a picture of that. I just thought it was for the diary. I didn't know he was doing it in general.
Well, I mean, I don't know about his motivations, but
Okay.
these are photos that he took, like, or had taken of him in a private dwelling in an obviously non-professional setting with like a point and click flash camera, right?
Yeah.
So whatever his motivation, he was experimenting with drag around the same time as well.
Wow.
That makes me think the song is coming from like even more of a sincere place. I think that's cool.
Well, he also says everyone's a little queer, so he's talking about himself as well, right?
Yeah.
So he's definitely not being homophobic in it. I would definitely defend him on that.
Yeah, so I basically want to say that when I was re-listening to this album, it really hit me during this song, but it's all over the album, that the way it's recorded, it's like you can hear every single hand movement on the strings. Like you can hear them when they change to a different chord. And in the solo, it's like you can really hear the strings ringing out, and like you can hear them pushing against the frets and stuff. and I've never really heard the songs like that because I have a new pair of headphones that probably lets me hear stuff the best I've ever heard it. And basically, Pink Triangle was the moment when I realized, like, for my ear and my taste, like, this is perhaps the greatest sounding album ever to me. I love the way this sounds, and I would love for my music to sound like this. And I know that, like, it sounds easy. It's like, oh, they like produced it themselves, and like it sounds shitty, so it should be easy. But I'm sure to sound this shitty, they had to do a lot of work
Totally.
and have nice recording equipment and stuff. But basically, I just love the sound of this record.
But sorry.
I was just gonna say a lot of Pinkerton, not all of it, but a lot of Pinkerton was recorded at Sound City, actually, where Nirvana recorded Nevermind, and like Fleetwood Mac did Rumors, and like Tom Petty did a bunch of stuff, and they had a great like vintage Neve board there. So like a good chunk of Pinkerton was recorded in a very, very, very. Sound City was not like it wasn't an expensive studio, but it was a very good sounding one, which is why people chose to record there, because it was cheap as hell, but it had good gear and a good sounding live room. So yeah, a lot of Pinkerton was recorded there as well.
But I wonder that you said that the it sounded like you hear every finger movement. Was that because like it was over amplified, or was that just because like it was recorded in a good room? Like,
Yeah, I have no clue. I don't know how that stuff works. There are just so many just like cool little recording tricks here. Like, I think it's at the beginning of the next song, which we can get into. You can hear like a Japanese broadcast, and I think it comes through an amp.
yeah,
And so it's just like stuff where it just sounds like the mic is like literally like right up to the amps or like right up to the electric guitars or something. And I love it.
I think I'm not sure if I'm going to correct you or not. I think it might have been Korean in the end.
Oh,
But I think they heard it and they're like, it's pretty close to Japan, so we're going to keep it.
cool.
But do you know Danny, if it is Korean or Japan,
No.
Japanese?
But I think I think it says konnichiwa in it, which if I'm not mistaken is Japanese.
Okay, maybe I'm completely wrong. Yeah,
I don't know. Like,
Okay.
I have no idea. I know almost nothing about either language. But I think
I don't have to speak either language myself. Yeah.
but I think it says konnichiwa in it, which I think is Japanese, but I don't know. But the Pink Triangle segues into Falling for You. There's no stop in between them. So maybe we just segue right into Falling for You right now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, I was gonna stop the segue, but maybe I keep it going by keep speaking. If I keep speaking,
Just keep speaking.
All right, so this song is like has the most chords of any Weezer song, I believe. It modulates like crazy. It has a very good guitar solo in it, in my opinion. And it makes reference to a cello again in it. Man, okay, how do you guys feel about it?
I'm gonna let you go.
I love it. This one was always my least favorite when I was a kid. Again, it's at that late slot in the album, so I think that just put it at a disadvantage. And also the chord changes, particularly when I was in high school, I didn't play guitar, so I couldn't try to learn it and appreciate it. I just listened to it, and the chord changes just like felt weird to me. I didn't know there were chord changes happening, but it was like the song just didn't really at any point ingrain itself in my head because the chord changes are so strange, except for maybe like the intro riff. But in the last few years, particularly after learning the song on guitar, I really started to appreciate it technically. And then once I got over that hurdle, now when I hear the song, I don't really hear the weird chord changes. I can like I know they're there and I can appreciate them, but because I know where the song is going now, it feels a lot more like a linear song, and I'm just able to listen to it and really appreciate like where the vocal melodies and stuff go, and the key changes going on beneath it are just like a bonus. So I think this song is a total feat of songwriting, and there's so much stuff I love about it.
I agree. I concur.
Yeah.
I think it's also got some of the funniest lines in all of Pinkerton on it. Like it's like a funny song too. In particular, there's like that one bit in the bridge that is like just really, really deliciously kind of like ironic and self-referencing, where he's talking about how, like, you know, I found your cello in the basement and I tried to play it and I can't believe how bad I sucked, and he's like, what could you possibly see in little old 3-chord me in the middle of this tune that has like more chords in it than like exist in music, and modulates like these like really sophisticated modulations.
Yeah, like, there's a part where he says you say like too much, and he goes on to say like right after that.
No, it's great, and I never found it. Again, probably just because from a pretty young age, I was into music that had weird chord progressions, and like it never sounded weird to me, and I never even really knew that it was a really complex song until I tried to figure it out, right? And then I was like, holy crap, there's a lot going on here. But like when I would just listen to Pinkerton, I never flagged it as complicated, really, in particular.
Which is a sign that they wrote it in a way where you wouldn't pick up on it. Like they wrote it cleverly that it would
totally.
Yeah,
and like I always just thought it was like a good, cool, kind of heavy. Like it's one of the heavier songs on Pinkerton as well too, which is sort of cool. I always just thought that it was like a good, solid rocker, and so that just again kind of speaks to, as you're saying, like Rivers' skill as a writer, right?
Yeah.
That like, at least for me on the surface, I was like, okay, like cool, banger, good job, Rivers. And then like, I tried to figure it out, and I was like, I can't figure this out. Like, I can't.
So there's a case. Maybe I should say my first negative thing, because the thing is, and this is not to lead you to think this is the most negative song, because I can't remember what I rated what, because everything is up in the air.
I know how you felt when we trashed Only in Dreams now, Sandy. Now let's hear it.
But no, I think the guitar solo is like the best moment of this album.
Cool.
Like I think it's the most beautiful moment in music history. No, not both. No, but I think it's one of the, it's a great one. But those verses. I mean, no, I think that they're stand up, and like they could totally destroy "Girl Got Hot" at any moment. But no, I don't know. I guess it just like compared to the rest of the album, that part, like those parts, just don't sort of hit as hard for me. Although I mean, I still love like at the end of the verse when it stops and it goes that ding 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 ding. And anyway, I think it's still great. It's a great song, but just like for me, it's melodic, and perhaps I don't know how to put it. Like its catchiness is just sort of like it doesn't fall for me.
Mm-hmm.
So to you, it's the verses are what stick out as being jarring?
Well, not that they're jarring. It's just that they're not as exciting as other songs. But I still think it's great. I still think it's a great song, and don't think it's the lowest rated one. Although maybe it is. I can't remember what I picked, but it's still a great song, and it's. I would love to see it live, like more than other songs on here. So I'm not just trying to say it's a terrible song. It's like it just like, I don't know. There's something about it that just isn't quite. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember where all the changes are, but for me, the jarring part has always been in the chorus when he goes, "My baby, I'm afraid I'm falling for you." That change.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas the verses, I don't remember what's going on there, but the verses seem okay to me. Like it seems like a kind of standard, and then it's the choruses that really throw me for a loop.
If I'm recalling correctly, the verses don't change. Like there's no key change in the middle of the verse, if I'm recalling correctly. I think it's sort of solidly. There might be like a major minor kind of thing, but I think it's like kind of solidly in D flat minor or D flat in the verses. And then I think it does. There's like it goes like D flat major, D flat minor kind of thing, but it's like solidly in the same tonal center. But yeah, in the choruses, it fucking's all over the place.
Oh, is
for
it
sure.
every chorus? Does it move around the key?
In the chorus, it's like, yeah, because he starts bringing in like he's using all these flat chords, and then he starts bringing in like D's and like F's and stuff like that. Like yeah, he starts bringing in like all he's kind of in he starts it sort of in like the flat world. Right, of like D flat, G flat, A flat, kind of that stuff.
Yeah.
And by like when he's at that part you're talking about, he's bringing in all these natural chords of like D and like F and C and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, for sure, he's a man in motion in the chorus, for sure. And then the bridge is in a complete. I think the bridge is in like A minor or something like that, right? Like after the solo, he somehow like winds up in like A minor.
Yeah, because then he goes into the last chorus and it's higher. It's a key change from the rest of the choruses.
But I wasn't positive. Okay.
Yeah, because you can hear his voice when he's singing the last chorus. He's up there higher than you.
I'm afraid I'm falling for you.
And I love that. So like once I got my head around those choruses, they sound really pleasant to me. And then so when he does the key change at the end, and I don't think Weezer does that often. Like they have a lot of modulations, but I don't think they do a lot of the last chorus.
Yeah, like the classic
pop song thing. And so I love hearing it here, and I love the solo just like you, especially when they go to you think the solo is over, and then it keeps going with like the tremolo picking. I love that. I love how on this album, all over, you can hear feedback like before and after a guitar starts playing. Yeah. Like in the first verse, there's some tremolo picking that starts, and you can like hear the feedback as if like the guitar is like getting plugged in and getting ready to be played.
Yeah,
which I love, and I try to get the guys to put that in our songs. I love that stuff, and I also am in love with the main riff that starts this. I love the Radiohead No Surprises thing that starts it, but then coming out of that, and so when you hit that coming out of the first chorus, it's incredible, and that's what leads into the solo.
It's the same motif that leads into the solo afterwards.
So that it leads into a key change there, because like it starts the song in its one key, and then when it comes out of the second chorus, he's doing it, and you think you're just gonna stay there, and then it leads into the key change that goes into the solo. So it's incredible.
Absolutely.
That seems like, I'm gonna use the word classical, but
it's a really Falling for You is like one of the most classicals, and I know that you're like, I'm going to use the word. Yeah, it's a romantic. It's very romantic, in terms of like what he's doing there musically, because romantic music is all about making it so that you, and this is like what one of my like music profs in college said, was like, romantic music is all about obscuring. It's all about obstruction, and it's about obscuring where like you kind of don't want the listener to know what key you're actually in, right? And it's all about kind of like not about it's about the obstruction of the tonal center.
Wow, that's something I did not know that romanticism was about.
At least in music. I can't speak about art or literature.
That sounds like a very difficult task to take on.
Yeah, well, I would say that Rivers was like 2/3 of the way through his like composition class, and he was like, man, like, yes, this is I can't wait to get home. And like,
it was the right mix, because if he went all the way, maybe we wouldn't like it, and so it's like 2/3 is like the great way to go.
Yeah.
It's like if he went all the way, we like, what key are they in? We're not even sure. I'm not feeling it.
I also love how lyrically this is the first time in a while on the album where it seems like maybe he's about to like let himself go into a good relationship, and he's going to take the initiative. We get like Why Bother, of course, where he's afraid to get into the relationship across the sea where it's impossible. Good Life, he's got to work on himself. El Scorcho, he wants to be in a relationship, but he's not putting himself out there. Falling for You, it seems like he's finally willing to let it happen. He's kind of afraid of it, but he's willing to let it happen. And then for this to be the second last song on the album, and then we just get the coda Butterfly afterwards, it's sort of like leaves it up to interpretation what happened after falling for you before we get into Butterfly. Like you would almost expect another song in between there, like a breakup song, but instead they skip the breakup song and they go right to Butterfly. So I think it's really cool sequencing.
And it's kind of like good editing. It's like, we know what happened. You don't have to explain the breakup song.
Yeah, because we know how damaged he is and like how he wouldn't be able to hold down a relationship. So Butterfly is fine. We can imagine how it didn't work out.
How we know how this went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to go into Butterfly here?
Let's do it.
An acoustic song. What I know about it is that when it was recorded, the engineer asked Rivers after he recorded the first take of it, "Are you sure you want to say this on tape?"
Wow.
Apparently that's what happened. Just making sure. And I believe Matt Sharp pushed for the song to be the last song on the album. Was like, you got to record this. Like he loved it so much. So it was a controversial song at the time.
And it's Carl playing the bass drum.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
100%.
That's really cool.
I guess they couldn't get Pat to show up for that. He was too busy.
Yeah, or maybe because I know that they did a couple of sessions after the main sessions.
Oh, okay.
So it might have been one. It might have been one of those. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, okay, crazy.
Butterfly is controversial.
Well, just the fact that the engineer said, "Are you sure you want to say that?" and then Matt Sharp said, "You got to put that on the album." That's the controversy.
Okay.
But I guess there's a bit of controversy is that saying, "I'm sorry for what I did. I did what my body told me to do," is like a justification for like cheating. And then if I'm a dog, you're a bitch, and it's like that's kind of harsh. But I mean, other than that,
I think that it has one of the best lyrics on. I love Butterfly. I think it's an amazing song. And I think it has one of the best lyrics on Pinkerton. I've always loved it. I guess you're as real as me. Maybe I can live with that.
Yeah.
Maybe I need fantasy. Life of chasing butterflies. I think that's such a beautiful line.
how come? What's the?
I don't know. Just the idea of like, he's kind of saying like. He's like, just for a minute, he's like kind of allowing himself to see whoever this person is as like a real person who's like as real as him. You know what I mean? And he's there for like just a second, but he can't hold it. He's like, no, I can't.
Okay,
like,
so
you know
in the middle of the lyrics, he's kind of giving up on his whole idea of holding reality, and maybe idea life of fantasy. Like he kind of gives up on it,
or has given up at least on trying to see this person as anything other than like his own idea of what they are, or like or an object or something like that. I don't know. It's just it always struck me, and I also beyond like any meaning it might have, I also just think like it sounds nice. It's just a nice sounding series of words. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But it's like Butterfly is a profoundly sad song. I think that it's like such a sad, like lonely, like isolated tune, and I think that he sounds genuinely remorseful by the end of it. You know what I mean? Like the end of this album is just Rivers saying "I'm sorry" over and over and over and over again. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's a really, really, really powerful song.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've said this about a few songs, but there was definitely a point where this was my favorite song on the album.
Yeah.
Certainly one of my favorite closers on an album. Just like I love opening the album with "I'm tired, so tired, I'm tired of having sex." I think that's a great thesis.
I'm tired. I'm sorry. It started.
Yeah,
off
ending the album with "I'm sorry." That was one of the most profound things I had ever heard in my life up until that point. And even, you know, some of those lyrics that you brought up that sound a bit questionable, like "if I'm a dog, then you're a bitch." Yeah. I do think that is kind of a it seems like a shitty line, not in terms of writing, but in terms of like a shitty way to feel. But his delivery of it is so resigned. It doesn't sound like an attack. Yeah. You know, it's not like pointed and biting. Like it kind of it sounds very, very nonchalant and like sort of like something you would like kind of like roll your eyes and like tell yourself after you've been in a fight with someone,
Okay.
like after they've pointed out stuff that's actually wrong about you. You know, she's pointed out that he's a dog, he cheated on her, and this is him like sort of deflecting and saying something shitty, but he doesn't actually seem to have a whole lot of like confidence in that insult, especially because then it leads to him saying that great line that Sandy said, which really sums up the whole album, because the whole album he's creating an idealized version of a person he wants to be with, whether it's someone that's going to break his heart or someone that's going to make everything right for him. And now he's finally reached that person and talked to them and fallen for them and allowed himself to be with them, and now he knows that they're a real person, and he's saying that, oh, that's not enough for me, like maybe I'm more comfortable being unhappy because what I had in my head might be the way I need to be.
But it's cool that the part about if I'm a dog, you're a bitch. It like I never thought about it that way. It kind of gives it like a better context. Is that like because he is the bad guy in the song.
He's the bad guy on this album.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. But like this song here, I was like, it sounds like he's the bad guy. And that one line was like, well, why is he being so? And it's kind of like, yeah, it's like he's because he would be called a dog by a woman, and it's like, and he's kind of like giving a half-hearted like defense of himself. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a really, really, really beautiful live version of this from 2000 or early 2002.
Yeah.
It's not been officially released. It's on an audience recorded bootleg. They were playing in Japan. So I could find it and send it to you guys. It's like an electric version, and it's really, really, really chilled out and super vibey. There's drums and stuff.
Oh, there's drums. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It's really, 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 as I said, just like really vibey and like really, really, really chilled out, and really, really, really nice harmonies between Rivers and Brian.
What do they do? Harmonies?
Yeah, on the I'm Sorry's, right? And Brian's above him going, right?
Yeah.
It's really beautiful, honestly, truly, truly, truly gorgeous. This Butterfly is like a amazing song. I know I've already said that, but it really is. And even like in the beginning of it, like he kind of like fucks up the guitar playing, you know what I mean? He does not play it anywhere even close to perfect, and it works. Like it's like this is supposed to be a broken sounding song, and there's parts of it where he sounds out of breath, right, when he's singing, and I think it's a really, 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 really effective song.
I totally agree. I think that this is one of those songs where you'd write it and then like you might, because it's so simple and you can't cover it up with a bunch of electric guitar parts and stuff like that, and it's just all out there on display, I would be worried that like I don't know if I can get the take that I want of this song. And I think I've read that like they tried it a few times and they weren't getting it, and at one point I think they recorded it at like 4 a.m. Weezer, the Weezer man himself, Rivers, was like we got to do it, I'm ready to go, and so they recorded it late at night. And it sounds that way. Like it sounds, you can tell it's recorded in one take. You can tell he's singing as he's playing guitar. You can hear him like sort of mess up these riffs. I like that it's almost a 3-chord song after Falling for You. And he's got those little riffs in there, and you can hear him almost messing up, and totally in the choruses, they're pretty wordy. And you can kind of hear him running out of breath, but it's like he has this thing that he really needs to say, and he's not even gonna like bother trying to put all the work in to say it in one of these grand songs with like an extravagant melody and stuff. He just needs to get it all out over the guitar. I think it's a perfect closer. And
that sort of tragedy, which is like perhaps similar to Tighter Sex. Sorry, I'm going to totally mess up the wording of this. Every time I think I pin down what I want, it goes away? It floats
Slips away.
Slips away, that's the word, okay. which is the idea of that like you're never quite satisfied with what you have because like you look for the goal and you get it, and then when you have the goal, you're like, the goal goes away. Anyway, does that make any sense what I'm saying?
Totally.
It does,
Okay.
totally.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of butterfly is a great analogy. Like whether you're comparing it to Madame Butterfly, which I know a lot less about, but I know he was drawing on that, or just the idea of as a kid chasing butterflies. Like he's saying that I wanted this thing, it was pretty, I thought it would make me happy, I got it, but a butterfly is meant to be free, or at least if you're going to catch it, you got to put it somewhere where it can live happily. But he wasn't doing that. He was catching it and pinning it down in like a butterfly book where it's going to die.
Yeah.
And so even when he's trying to catch this butterfly, when he's trying to catch this person that he wants to be in a relationship with, there's no way he can do that without hurting or like destroying what makes the thing beautiful, because he is by definition bad for it. You shouldn't catch a butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
And I also love the recording sound of this song. It's so simple in its recording, but somehow the guitar sounds so like fresh and full. Like it kind of sounds like the guitar is like tuned down a whole step, and I know it's not because I've played along to it, but it just has that sound of like the G chord just really rings out and sounds so fresh, and I don't know exactly how they got that sound, but it's awesome.
Like great engineer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking great.
All right.
You did
song.
it, Rivers.
All right, so let's do. I'm making sure
Got
things are
there.
still recording. Let's do. Okay, so we're gonna write down our
We're gonna go best and worst.
best and worst. There's some more paper here. I'll
It
grab.
was really hard to do this for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm able to guess anybody's.
I've
things.
changed my ranking a couple times as we've been talking.
Oh, you did? Okay,
And, like,
shit. I made notes, so it's gonna be very hard for me to figure out.
There are some times, I bet you on video, people will be able to see, I kind of like make the stank face because I'm thinking of just a sick part in the song, and I'm just like, I gotta be hearing that.
I mean, yeah, there's like a few songs I'm just like. I think I feel pretty comfortable about my worst song, but my best song, I'm like, I could move all over the place. All right.
Can I borrow that pen, Kevin? The one that's right there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Are you writing notes?
I know. I want to rearrange something. In
Okay,
my
gotcha.
ranking.
Okay.
Oh, interesting,
Yeah,
Sandy.
yeah.
I know you were confident beforehand.
I was feeling pretty confident, but I think something needs to change.
Maybe we should do it like phone a friend, 50-50, and ask the audience. Well, there's no audience, but
Get Maurice in here, we can ask her.
if you like did like 50-50, like you remove 5 songs, is it to like get a better idea? All right, I'm going for it. I'm declaring El Scorcho the worst song of all time. Not even of this album, just like. Oh god. You guys, yeah, you can hide it underneath the paper just in case. I'm not planning to cheat, but in case I do
all
by
right.
accident, I don't want to see anybody's stuff. We all cool.
Okay.
All right. You want to? How did we do it last
I
time?
think we went. Did we go worst last time?
Yeah, I
did
did
worst
worst.
again.
Yeah, so I'll guess Kevin's worst
All right.
first. I'll just trust my instinct right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I think because of some of the odd stuff in Falling For You, I'm going to guess Falling For You. Even though I think you like it. I think you really like it, but something's got to be at the bottom. So
Sandy, how do you feel?
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna guess Get You.
Sandy is correct.
Hey!
Okay.
And there's a problem is there's a bias that like if you don't like shit talk a song, it doesn't mean that you don't like it.
I heard subtle shit talk. I was listening really carefully.
Okay.
I was using some of my therapy skills.
Yeah, you turned on your therapy
to listen really carefully. Yeah.
So what did you hear from him?
I heard him say that he doesn't like how the song sounds.
I don't really like this song.
You didn't say that directly. But you made several references to the fact that it sounds way too distorted. It sounds like it sounded,
guitar solo.
it's grating. You can't. Yeah, exactly. I heard
right.
So I added all that up in my head to like, I don't like how this song sounds. I didn't hear you say it was a bad song. I heard you say you don't like how it sounds.
And the only time I think I spoke badly was with Falling For You. So like, I should be more open about my feelings, but like, these are all really great songs, so it's hard to be that way. I think like if we do like Green, I'll probably be like much more meaner to the songs.
Yeah, that's
some of the
fair.
songs, yeah.
That's
I'm
fair.
excited. I'm honestly I'm like, these chats are I knew they were going to be just a lot of fun and a lot of agreeing.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to get into the later stuff.
Things are gonna get divisive.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the greatest post-Pinkerton song ever.
Oh man, we'll have to do an entire episode about like top. Everybody picks their top 10 post Pinkerton.
All right, so should we?
We'll
guess Liam?
We'll guess Sandy. Let's
Guess
try
Sandy, okay.
Sandy first.
All right. So, oh man. All right, I'm in between 3, but I'm kind of narrowing it down to 2.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna go for Across the Sea. Oh, sorry. Wait. Is this the best or worst? Sorry,
Worst.
Oh Jesus. Okay. Wrong. Okay, wrong. Sorry, I read my notes wrong.
I was like, what therapy brain was I missing from Sandy? Wasn't I supposed to understand that reverse psychology?
I'm gonna say No Other One.
Okay.
That's a fair guess. I know Sandy loves all these songs, so I actually have a few that I'm thinking of that it could be, just because I know you love them all, but I know you love some more than others. So at that point, it's like it feels like everything else is up for grabs. Like I feel like you could be No Other Oneing. I think you could be Get Youing. I think you could be Good Lifing.
Good Lifing.
So I'm gonna lock in my lyrics and say, just because Sandy guessed Get You for Kevin, and that kind of made it sound like Sandy didn't agree.
Oh.
And I think you like Good Life more than No Other One because Wicked slides so low. Also, I think I'm gonna guess No Other One as well.
Okay. You ready?
Oh,
Get You. Oh.
nice. Fair enough.
Yeah. I dropped a little bit of a clue because I said not that it was get you, but where you were like I'm maybe leaning towards No Other One.
Yeah.
I dropped a little bit of a hint because I was like, I think No Other One is actually really underrated.
Oh, that's right. You did say that.
Oh.
You did.
That wasn't enough for me to write a note about it, but damn it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Okay, so we've got to guess Liam's worst.
Yep.
Okay, this is going to be really hard because you did not betray a whole lot of disdain for any of the tracks
like
here.
even though every song to me isn't a 10 out of 10, it's a 10 out of 10 album. It's one of those things.
I'm guessing right off the bat, The Good Life.
I am going to. This is a really tough one.
Tough for me too.
I think that I am going to. I'm gonna sort of take a bit, what might be a bit of a long shot. I'm kind of torn. I'm torn here between The Good Life and a couple of other ones. That was sort of one of my thoughts as well. I'm gonna go Pink Triangle.
Nice. Okay. And did you guess, Kevin? Sorry.
Yes, I guessed.
You guessed Good Life. You guessed Good Life. Okay. My pick and I'm really not confident. Like for me, Blue Album was a bit easier to pick the bottom. The tiers on Pinkerton are just 2. There's like the 11 out of 10 songs and like the 9.7 out of 10 songs, I guess. My pick is Why Bother?
Wow.
In parentheses, sorry, Sandy.
All right, completely wrong.
And in my ranking, I went back and forth. My bottom, to me, Get You and Why Bother are always the 2 that sort of slip down to the bottom for me, that feel a bit slighter than the other songs.
Yeah.
And this time around, and I had Get You at the bottom at one point, but I really, really love the bridge in Get You, and I love the Rivers just like crooning at the end of the song. Whereas Why Bother is like such a cool, straightforward, punchy song, but it doesn't have the peaks and valleys that Get You does, I think.
Cool.
All right, cool.
Cool. Okay.
Do we go in the same order again, or?
Yeah, let's go Liam with best.
Okay. You're guessing me or I'm guessing?
No, you guess.
Okay.
Oh, you're guessing me? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, gotcha.
Kevin's number 1.
I'm going to do the little drum roll. Maybe I can add one in.
Dude, this is kind of...
It's be impossible to
It's tough.
It's
Yeah.
it's going to be like an arbitrary thing that... I mean, I should be more conscious, and I should probably just drop more hints, too, because I'm not...
that's-
No,
Sounds
don't.
alright.
No, I appreciate your Weezer poker
Yeah,
face.
you got to
I'm not
express
trying
yourself.
because it is... it's hard to, like, to really hate on them. So
Well,
it's
we'll
like...
see what happens when we get to the Green Album.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know that there's tension
my
there
God.
for you.
Okay, my guess for Kev is going to be Across the Sea.
Okay. I'm guessing El Scorcho.
All right. You both... I like when you pick different options, too. It is Across the Sea.
Oh, nice.
I mean,
Liam.
and I'm just like I'm a basic bitch. Say it ain't so and Across the Sea.
I wonder if that is the basic thing, or if El Scorcho would be more basic. I think
Yeah.
Across the Sea like is often the crowd favorite, but I feel like Across the Sea is also like you got to be a deep Weezer fan for it to be your favorite.
Yeah.
But also, as I recall, El Scorcho's number 2, so they're very close to each other.
Nice.
So it wasn't like way off. So
You are gonna. Let's.
I think we're guessing you now.
guessing me.
Yeah.
For best. Okay. Well, I already know what you're gonna vote.
How do you know?
You said it earlier.
You went to guess it when you said the worst.
No, okay, but I have different notes here.
Okay.
Oh, okay. You got to recalibrate.
No, wait a second. No, I had to pick between 2, and I picked one. Yeah, I'm gonna guess Across the Sea.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess Across the Sea with a bullet. I would be surprised if it's anything else.
All right. Okay.
Nice.
What gave it the bullet?
One, I know how good of a song it is. 2, you just said right from the beginning that you think it's beautiful. You think it's a masterpiece. All the different places it goes.
Yeah.
We all talked about how we like the lyrics, which I think is really the only hurdle that people can have with that song, because musically it is so impressive. So if you can get past the lyrics, I think it's tough to top that song.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, is that a hint of what you're gonna pick? I'm gonna pick. I don't think that was your number one, even though you said it's tough to top it.
It's tough, but it might be possible.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with El Scorcho.
That's a hard one because you love El Scorcho.
I do.
It's really obvious from listening to you talk about it that you fucking love that tune. This is a hard one because I heard you. It could from the way you were talking, it could easily be Across the Sea. I feel like it could easily be Falling for You. It could easily be El Scorcho, and it could easily be Butterfly. So this is really, really, really tough. I think I'm gonna lock in El Scorcho as well.
Good guesses, both of you.
Oh no, it's
No.
wrong.
Sandy, you listed 4 amazing songs, and somehow you left out my favorite.
Whoa.
Tired of Sex.
Oh man!
Way back at the beginning.
Yeah.
Man,
And-
it's crazy.
yeah.
Okay, this is before you go on. See, I wrote down Liam fave, and then I scratched it out because you shit talked it at one point.
Did I shit
Yeah,
talk
I'm
it?
not sure what you said now, but I'm like, well, wait a second. He doesn't want that.
Interesting. Yeah, it's not super easy for me. Like, my, well, I'll tell you, and my top 3 is El Scorcho is 2 and Across the Sea is 3, but even all those are like separated by little slivers. And what it comes down to, I think, is just that every single note in Tired of Sex is perfectly played. And I think the fact that it's the opener of the album, it's such a declarative statement. It just always excites me. Perhaps my favorite moment on the album is after the first chorus when Rivers does those 2 screams. And then the coda as well, where Pat, and then you get the halftime break. It's just like, it's so much in 3 minutes, and it's so special to me. But El Scorcho and Across the Sea are both amazing too.
Cool.
All right, I'll read out my.
Let's do the rankings. Yeah, I'm
Rankings.
super curious to hear about this. This one was excruciating for
Yeah.
me. To rank
Yeah.
was really, really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would ever change Get You as my. It's bottom tier for me, but everything else, I had great feeling for. Then again, okay. Anyway, I won't keep going on here. All right. So number 1 was Across the Sea. Number 2, El Scorcho. Number 3, Tired of Sex. Number 4, Pink Triangle. Number 5, Why Bother. Number 6, Falling for You. Number 7, Butterfly. Number 8, Good Life. Number 9, No Other One. Number 10, Get You.
Interesting. Yeah. So once again, we have the same top 3.
Oh yeah, good
But
point.
then
Yeah.
we kind of flip around quite a bit.
Maybe those 3 songs are undeniably great, and then the rest of them are
I
kind
think
of like
so.
What was
Yeah.
it? Across the Sea, El Scorcho,
Tired of Sex.
Tired of Sex. Okay. Yep.
But yeah, no, I still have great admiration. Yeah, I put Falling for You pretty high. Yeah,
You did, yeah.
because that guitar solo was unbelievable.
That's true. You did say it's the best guitar solo in history,
the history of guitars.
which I'd have a tough time arguing.
All right, who?
Why don't I go? I want to give Sandy the last word on one of these. Okay, so my number 1 is Tired of Sex, 2 is El Scorcho, 3 is Across the Sea. And then I would say there's a tiny step down.
Yeah.
And we've got 4 is No Other One, for me, a personal favorite. 5 is Falling for You, and that's gone way up as to where it's been in the past. 6 was Butterfly, which I think was 8, and then we talked about it, and I put it back up at 6. That was the first time I had outwardly tried to rationalize, if I'm a dog, you're a bitch, and I was like, that's kind of sick, Liam. Good job. So I moved it up. Pink Triangle is 7. Good Life is 8, which I love. Really, my only criticism is the ad-libs. And even then, I don't know if the ad-libs brought it down at all, because the other songs are just all so great. And then 9 is Get You, and 10 is right behind it with Why Bother.
No.
So your bottom 3 were Good Life.
Get You, Why Bother.
Yeah. Okay.
So we had in common Good Life and Get You as the bottom.
Like bottom 3?
Yeah, bottom 3. But I had no other one as there as well. But
Right.
I've been changing this.
like as we've been talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
I thought I was happy with it when I left the house today.
Yeah.
Like I felt pretty confident. I remember looking at it and being like, "Yeah, that's it."
I can stand behind this.
No, but
I can defend it.
as we've been talking, I've been like, "No, I've got to make some fucking changes, man." I'm gonna make one more that I think needs to be somewhere else.
Has Across the Sea stayed at number 1?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Stupid question.
There's no stupid questions. But yeah, Across the Sea will never change. That's always going to be number 1. Okay, I think I feel
pretty good about this.
Oh, and I should say, Across the Sea was my number 2, and then we talked about El Scorcho. So those are neck and neck too.
Okay.
So for me, number 1 is obviously Across the Sea, and it's nailed to number 1. Like that will never ever change. I did this one the same way as I did Blue. In fact, I did all of them the same way, where I divided them beforehand into top and bottom halves, and then and then as I listened to them, I was like, how accurate is this, right? And I thought I was pretty good about it, but now I'm realizing that I I wasn't. So Across the Sea is number 1. Falling for You is going to be number 2 this go round. That might change, next week or something. But at this time, Falling for You is number 2.
Cool.
I think that this is a really hard one, and this changed in the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. I think Butterfly might be number 3.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. After that, I'd have El Scorcho as number 4. I think after that, I would have. This one's really tough. I think I would. I'm gonna throw Tired of Sex in at number 5. After that, I would have. I think No Other One at number 6.
Nice.
And then I would go at 7. Why Bother? I haven't had Pink Triangle. Have I hit Pink Triangle yet?
Not yet.
No. So I would have Pink Triangle at 7.
Oh, you haven't written it down.
I have, but I've been messing the orders all around,
Okay.
so I missed that one. So I would have Pink Triangle at 7, which is tough because I love it, but that's where it needs to be right now. And then for 8, 9, 10, I think I would go Why Bother, The Good Life, and Get You.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Our bottom ones, I have Good Life and Get You at the bottom. So yeah.
Yeah, we all have those in bottom 3, and it's kind of amazing to hear that you have Why Bother down at 8.
Yeah.
Because of how meaningful that song is.
No, I know, and that was hard. That was like really tough, but like the facts are the facts, man, and like, and like
It's true. It's true.
and Pinkerton is an incredible album, and the fact that Why Bother is at number 8 is there are millimeters between these songs for me, right? Like it's tough.
Liam, what was your bottom song?
Why Bother?
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Where was Get You on your list?
9.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So Get You is considered
Lower tier.
Yeah, definitely lower tier.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So, are you guys able to say, I think Sandy's able to say, whether you prefer Pinkerton or the Blue Album?
Ooh. Yeah, so so I can say, here's the thing, is that I think Pinkerton is better than the Blue Album by almost every metric. The one thing that I can say about it is that as I've gotten older, I've identified less and less with the narrator, right?
Of Pinkerton.
Of Pinkerton, right? So it's an album that, like, when I was in my late teens and early 20s, really, really, really hit something really deep in me, right? And as I've gotten older, I don't feel the same way. Like, I don't identify with this guy as much. I just don't.
Yeah.
So I still appreciate it, and I still obviously, and I think if I had to pick one, if I could only have one forever and ever and ever, it would be Pinkerton, right? But it's like my appreciation of it has switched from something that I felt really I identified with at a certain point in my life to something that now I view kind of like a little more remotely, right?
Yeah.
But I still think it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful album, and as I said, ugly as well. Like I just love how messy it is. I love how chaotic it is. I love how cringy and weird and sort of awkward and dark it is, and I think it's a masterpiece for sure. Yep.
And Liam, how do you feel about the two? Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I prefer Pinkerton. I think the top songs on Blue Album, like, you know, the top 4 songs, the top 5 songs, are all up there with these songs. But I prefer the production and the liveliness of this album, just in terms of the way it's played. I love how there are just so many cool nooks and crannies explored in the songs. And more of that is on the Blue Album than I remembered. Like, there are a lot of moments where, like, feedback is ringing out and stuff like that, which I thought wasn't present. I thought that was just a Pinkerton thing. But all across the board, I like the sound of Pinkerton more. I appreciate the lyrics more because it's an entire piece. And even though I also don't relate to the lyrics anymore, I don't relate to a lot of the lyrics on Blue Album as well, because a lot of those are personal tales too. You know, I don't I guess sympathize with them would be the word. Like, I don't feel like I'm in that position anymore, but I do empathize with the lyrics on both albums, and I hope I'll always be able to. And so because I appreciate both albums regardless of the lyrics, I think that musically Pinkerton is just stronger for me. Like, the bottom 3 songs on here, Good Life, Get You, Why Bother, those would probably be like in the middle of my Blue Album ranking.
Okay, yeah. I guess I'm just going to be very like fence-sitting about it.
Okay.
Maybe if we have like another discussion about all the albums, maybe I'll come to a decision about this. I'm kind of leaning Pinkerton, but like I can't say. If there's Desert Island, I can't say for certain what I'd pick. So I'm just going to be like, I still have my love for Get You is not that high, so like,
right, yeah.
If it was on the Blue Album, but like, you're gonna go towards the bottom too, my friend. But, but anyway, I mean, but still, it's like Across the Sea. Where's Across the Sea gonna land on the Blue Album? It's gonna be like up there really high. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But yeah, I definitely kind of can relate to the idea that like when you're younger, the lyrics of Pinkerton can kind of have like more meaning to you, and then. But then the opposite thing is that the Blue Album, I guess the meaning it was never as meaningful, but maybe it's more like it's more beloved as well. It's like, yeah, I'm being a fence sitter here. When we get on, if we get into the other albums, I'll be more brutal about them.
Because I think at the end of this whole big thing that we're doing here, what we're going to have to do is actually have a ranking of the albums. So you're going to be forced to pick one or the other.
Yes, we
eventually.
Should. Yeah.
I may reveal a secret. I mean, these two are going to be very high up on the rankings of the albums.
So here's what we'll do. We'll rank every song from every album.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Do like a big super tier list.
Yeah, I guess it'd be, I don't know, like 100 songs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we should read those out loud, but we can like, what's the word, like when you put them all together and calculate it?
Yeah, because I am curious as to like where does the top 3 of all of our Pinkerton lists stack up against Blue? If you were to combine them and have to rank all 20 songs, where would we put those?
But what are you going to do when you talk about 100 songs? That's going to be really hard.
Like people on the subreddit do it, man.
I know. I read that stuff. When I get into a band, I'll read entire rankings of.
Yeah. You have to
it's such an easy way to get yourself riled up. If I see a song I love in like the bottom 20, I'm going off.
You need some like software to like input all the songs and then push like up or down on them just to like make it work.
Yeah, I bet Rivers could make that software for us.
But yeah, this concludes the end of episode 2 or potentially episode 3. Probably episode 2 because the first one was episode 0, maybe the first thing we were talking about, the introduction. And I don't know what to say. Anybody want to say anything good to anybody? Imagine someone was listening to this someday.
In between Pinkerton and Green Album, there were 5 years passed. So we'll see you in 5 years.
Yeah, we're gonna do it in real time. We're gonna review Van Weezer when we're in our 50s. But I'm excited for the next episode. I think it's gonna be contentious, and I think just gonna keep getting more contentious because you know. Green. Well, I won't say, but once we get deep into Weezer albums, there are some high highs and low lows.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Red will have some. Ratitude's gonna have. I think might be the most bloodiest battle.
I'm gonna spoil it right now that like I think that the worst period in Weezer's career was from Red to Hurley, like without question. Like a lot of people, this is a preview. A lot of Weezer fans really love the Red album.
Yeah.
I think that as it was released, it's pretty trash. It should have been a lot better. There's like bonus. We've talked about that a little bit. There's like bonus tracks that like
are better than the original actual tracks.
100%.
I think when we do Red, we should include those, and even if we have to like do 2 separate rankings where we just rank the album and then we bring in just those 4 bonus tracks because they're on Spotify and stuff like they're easy to catch.
Yeah, with Miss Sweeney, was Spider one of them?
Spider.
Was Pig was one? No,
King
right?
and Pig.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I remember Pig was a demo at one point. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it just got worse and worse. I was like, I remember when Red Album came out. I was bro, it was rough. I was like, I can remember Red Album coming out, and I remember taking it for a spin and just being like, I don't know how much I like this. And then like I remember when the track listing for Ratitude came out, I was like, okay. No, I was honestly the first thing I saw was like, okay, at least Rivers wrote all the songs on this one. Like at least it's like all Rivers songs.
Right,
and I can fuck with that. And then it wound up just being like, honest, like Ratitude was one where like at first I was like, okay, these songs are stupid, but they're really catchy, right? So like I actually kind of like Ratitude more than Red, but I still think they're not great albums. And then it just kept getting worse and worse. And then Hurley came out, and I was like, they're not even trying, man. This is like a fucking album of demos. Like this is a bottom of the fucking barrel. Like this dude wrote Across the Sea. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm out. And I didn't listen to Weezer for like 3 years after Hurley came out. Yeah.
That's why Weezer is like the most fascinating band on the planet to me, is we just talked for like 5 hours about 2 albums that are basically 10 out of 10s, and then about the same band you can be like, this is fucking bottom of the barrel.
Holy fuck.